Hi everyone, and welcome back to RE. It's our second lesson of term 4, and we're looking at Christianity, and we're learning about this big question: why do Christians call the day Jesus died Good Friday? So last week we were thinking about at the beginning of our lesson where this unit fits in the big story of the Bible, weren't we? And we were learning about this word salvation. And thinking about what that word means. I wonder if you can remember what we said the word salvation means. So salvation means to save or to rescue. So we were wondering what this time in Jesus's life and the end of his life had to do with saving or rescuing people. So that's what we're going to be thinking about more over the next few weeks. We watched a video, didn't we? A Lego video, which showed the story of the last week of Jesus's life on earth. And then after the video, we had some pictures of different crosses. And I asked you if you could link the crosses to those main events in that story. So could you pause the video for a minute now and see if you can remember how each of these 3 crosses represents a certain part of that story of the end of Jesus's life on earth? Okay, so hopefully you remember that these crosses at the beginning are made of woven palm leaves, and that is linked to Jesus' arrival in Jerusalem. If you remember, he rode into Jerusalem on a donkey, and the crowds were there to greet him, and they cheered and waved palm leaves to celebrate his arrival. And so that's what those ones would represent. Then this cross with the crown of thorns and the red cloth, that links to Jesus being arrested and put to death. So he was crucified on a cross, and then after that his body was placed in a tomb. Then 3 days later we've got this cross with the sunrise behind it with the words "He is risen," which represents Jesus's tomb was empty and he appeared alive to his followers after that. So he was risen from the dead. Okay, so what we're going to be looking at this week is how Christians celebrate and how they mark those events in what's called Holy Week, so that week that leads up to Easter Sunday. So in different churches, they do different things, different traditions and different symbols that they use to celebrate each different part of the story. So I wanted to show you a video which shows 2 different Christians, so they belong to different groups of churches and in different countries even. And it shows some of the things that they do to mark the different parts of that story in their churches. So as you're watching, just try to pay attention to the different moods that those different days have when they celebrate them.
Easter celebrates the start of the Christian religion.
Hello, it's Easter Sunday. Yay! Easter presents to wrap, Easter cards to write.
Easter is absolutely central to what Christians believe because it's the day when we believe Jesus rose from the dead.
All Christian churches celebrate the resurrection in different ways. I'm an Anglican Christian, and at my church we light a fire to celebrate Jesus coming back into the world. It's a very happy time. But it's not all a happy occasion. Easter begins on Good Friday.
It's not a good day for the church at all, really, because it's the day when we remember Jesus dying on the cross. So what we will do today is meet together in church and we will follow Jesus's path to the cross. We will walk with him on the way that he took to the point where he was crucified.
This is the Via Dolorosa, where Jesus carried his cross to his crucifixion. It's in Jerusalem, where Laura lives.
Hi, everybody.
Laura is 13. She's a Catholic Christian.
The Via Dolorosa is really crowded, and especially during Easter, because all of the tourists come and walk the same way Jesus walked.
Jesus' cross was so heavy he fell a number of times.
So So right now we're at station 5, and it is where Jesus fell again and then he touched this rock. I feel really happy touching it and lucky too.
He feels the powerlessness.
I feel walking through the stations of the cross quite sad and thoughtful for Jesus. He must have felt really sad and hurt. There are many ways at Easter that we remember the crucifixion. I've been making hot cross buns.
We are giving them some golden syrup to give it a shine. The cross represents the crucifix.
Easter is a festival of mixed emotions.
On Friday it was a little bit sad because Jesus was dead, but now I'm excited because he has been given new life.
At church on Easter Sunday, we have a big service of celebration. At home, we celebrate by giving each other Easter eggs.
These here will be put into that glass for decoration. Not eating any, by the way, Mum.
They symbolise new life, just like a bird hatches from an egg. They're also delicious. Easter.
Oops, don't want to play it again, do we? Right, let's just get our flip chart back. Okay, hopefully that gave you a good idea of some of the things that Christians do to celebrate these different things that happened around Easter time. I'm going to go back a little bit further than Good Friday, first of all, and we're going to talk through a few of the traditions and the symbols that Christians use on these different days. Then I'm going to ask you to make a little poster displaying some of them. So let's go back to Palm Sunday. So remember, Palm Sunday is when Jesus arrived in Jerusalem, and Christians have celebrated that ever since by using crosses made from palm leaves, and sometimes they hold a procession, which is like a parade, a bit like how Jesus would have moved through the city, and sometimes they even have a real donkey as well. And then I wanted to quickly mention as well Maundy Thursday, which is the day before Good Friday. Now that was the day, if you can remember in the video, where they had Jesus' last supper with his disciples. It was the day before his arresting and his death. So it comes from a word which means to command, because it reminds Christians of what Jesus said, love one another as I have loved you. So at the Last Supper, Jesus washed his disciples' feet, which was a really significant act of service at that time. And sometimes churches recreate that even now. So they will wash each other's feet to represent that day. And sometimes they'll also have what's called communion, which is when they have bread and wine, just like Jesus had bread and wine with his disciples on that last day. Okay, and then, so Good Friday, if you noticed in the video, the little boy said that Good Friday is it's a bit of a sad day, a bit of a serious day to remember. And they reflect on the sacrifice that Jesus made by giving his life. Sometimes churches have what's called a walk of witness. So churches might gather with some other churches in their area and travel through their town, sometimes carrying a cross, which kind of reminds them of how Jesus had to carry his cross through the streets of Jerusalem, didn't he? And it also reminds them of Jesus' words when he said, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. And I've also added in here about the hot cross buns, that the boy was making hot cross buns, wasn't he, in the video? Now, hot cross buns, I did a little bit of research on them, and they have been around a bit longer than Christianity, but there is a story that a monk in the 14th century, a Christian monk, baked hot cross buns and gave them to the poor on Good Friday. So they may be part of the Christian tradition as well. And those crosses could obviously represent the cross that Jesus was crucified on, couldn't they? Now, I just wanted to also show you this was a little bit in the video as well, what happens between Good Friday and Easter Sunday, because there's that day in between, that Saturday, which is sometimes called Holy Saturday, which is like a day of waiting, isn't it? Because it's waiting between Jesus dying and him coming back to life again. So like in the boys' church, they had a fire outside. This church has got a fire outside. They sometimes have a really early morning service. So as it gets light, they might light a candle from this fire, and it might light up the dark church, which is a symbol of new life. And so it represents Jesus' resurrection on that Easter morning. And then on Easter Sunday itself, sometimes churches have an Easter garden in their church. So they might decorate their church with flowers to represent new life. So normally the church before Easter would have been very bare because it's Lent before Easter, which is a time of waiting and sometimes giving up things. So their church would have been very bare, but then on Easter Sunday, they decorate it and they'll use the colours white and gold, which represent celebrations, and have a real party feel in their services because it's a really happy day. And I've also added in about Easter eggs, because I'm sure lots of you have Easter eggs at Easter time, and they can be a symbol of spring, can't they? And a symbol of new life. But for Christians, they could also represent that stone that was rolled away from the entrance of the tomb where Jesus's body was. And so what I would like you to do for your task is, if you could find a piece of paper, it doesn't have to be a big piece of paper, and fold it in half. And I'd like you to focus on Good Friday and Easter Sunday. So Good Friday being that serious, quite sad day, representing Jesus' death, and then Easter Sunday being that celebration day of celebrating him coming back to life. So I'd like you to try and put 2 or 3 drawings of the symbols or the traditions, so the things that Christians might do on that day, on one side of your paper. So label it Good Friday. And on the other side, if you could label it Easter Sunday and add in some symbols and some traditions that Christians might do on Easter Sunday. So use what you watched in the video and some of the information that I've just shared with you to do that. And if you would like to do gold for an extra challenge, it would be great if you could add a few captions onto your poster. So if you could just explain what some of those things are that they're doing. So for example, I've put Walk of Witness, and I've got a little picture of it there. And I've put Christians carry a cross through the streets to remind them of Jesus carrying his cross through the streets of Jerusalem. Then I've also added a caption for the flowers that they use to decorate their churches, which symbolize new life and how Jesus rose from the dead. So have a go at adding some captions too to your poster if you would like an extra challenge. Okay, so that is your task for today. So I will leave you to get on with that, and I will look forward to seeing some of your posters on Dojo later.